I love nuts. I love eating nuts. I personally love eating nuts. Hey guys, I'm back. It's a Thursday, or at least it is when this is being released. The 70s is a thing of the past, and instead I now look like I'm about to join the army. I got my hair cut yesterday and I feel like I've lost a stone off the top of my head. I don't know if I feel brave or stupid tackling this topic on my third video, but we're gonna run with it and see where we get. You'll have already seen it in the title. Today I'm going to be talking about veganism and what I think of it. Let's make the dive. The most accurate research that we have suggests that the number of vegans in the UK is probably around 540,000. But that was 2 years ago in 2016, so you've got to imagine that the number must have grown a bit by then. So as a kind of compromise, I think it's fair to maybe put an estimate at somewhere like 750,000, which means you could fill out 15 Roman colosseums with vegans all baying for beans. We want legumes! We want legumes! Where better to begin than personal experiences? Yeah, remember that soy boy comment in the last video? That was a spoiler for this video. A bit of foreshadowing, pulling out all the narrative tricks. So the big question, what made me adopt a vegan diet? Ironically, probably only a few months, maybe a little bit longer, before I went vegetarian, I actually went to a restaurant, and the restaurant specialised in what you would say are exotic meats. So I ate bison, I think I might have eaten ox, I ate crocodile. Yeah, I know, it's not something I'm proud of, but in retrospect, if I think about it, that was sort of part of the process to get into where I am now. Because at that point, I guess I was questioning, you know, if we're gonna eat cows, pigs, chickens, etc., what differentiates them from other animals? So I stopped eating meat first, and I think it was actually an environmental decision. I've always felt quite strongly about protecting our environment, and when I found out how seriously a carnivorous diet can contribute to environmental damage, it was a bit of a no-brainer for me to become vegetarian. I mean, I liked meat. I would have meat with every single meal. You know, that was kind of the first thing that went on the plate. It was the first thing I picked up in the supermarket. I'd go, right, what meat are we having? Just like most people do. But I try my best to be a good person. And I just didn't feel that I could continue to consider myself to be one if I was contributing to environmental damage so much. More research followed this, and I was consequently blasted with all of the images that I'd hidden from for most of my childhood. I mean, we all know that animals have to die for us to eat meat, and we all know that it probably involves some kind of pain. But the extent of that pain is something that most people are only just now starting to pay real attention to. I've been completely guilty of this myself, but once I kind of opened my eyes a bit more and looked at it consciously, there just was no going back for me. That was it. I couldn't go back to eating meat. I was vegetarian for around 5 months, and then with a little push from my girlfriend, I started to consider stopping using animal products altogether. It took me a while to emerge from the self-congratulation I'd been giving myself for being a vegetarian to realise that yes, actually, still, I could do a lot more. So 2017 swings around and I did Veganuary. And surprisingly, over the course of the whole thing, actually cutting meat was probably the easiest part. Eggs, milk, cheese, and cosmetics were the biggest hurdle. I can honestly say that since then, I haven't really looked back. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes. Loads of mistakes. Even just a month ago, I was eating noodles only to realise that I had been eating chicken cubes within them. Basically what they'd done is they dehydrated chicken, made it into little cubes and put it in the noodles. Who wants meat that bad? Seriously, that they can't have a pack of noodles without dried chicken cubes in them. I guess we should try and find an answer to another question, which is, Why do people seem to hate vegans so much? A few people who are vegan seem to have quite a self-righteous attitude. As is often the case, it seems to be suggested that the vocal minority actually represents the more quiet majority. These types of people can do things like force their veganism in people's faces as if it's a ticket to I'm better than you land. The terms and conditions to go on the rides there, though, are a little bit more complicated than that. Look, people approach things in different ways, and some people might think that the best way to get other people to consider veganism is by morally shaming them into doing so. Do I think that we as humans should feel guilty for the suffering that we've caused through factory farming? Yes. But this is a burden we share as a species. I can't honourably go around pointing fingers at other people when I myself have spent 23 years ignoring and contributing to this mess. I personally feel that a better way to increase the popularity of veganism is to make things more favourable and accessible to people that are interested. There are already plenty of companies and people that are trying to do this, and successfully so, I think. Because I spend a lot of my time working outside, I've been into a lot of Greggs over the past 2 years since I went vegan, and I can tell you that right up until now, when these magical vegan sausage rolls have appeared, I don't think there was a piece of dust in Greggs that could be considered vegan. It's very rare, if not impossible, that you can change someone's mind from one pole to the other. Only they can change their mind. So the best you can do is just try and provide evidence that might tip the scale. By screaming and shouting at people, backs hit walls and gaps just get wider and wider and wider. I know for a fact that if I believe one thing and someone's trying to convince me round to their way of thinking, already I'm like super protective over that belief. If someone gets aggressive with me in an argument, then I shut off. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the time we go into debates already 50% closed off anyway. I don't think anyone can argue with the barbarity of the animal suffering that goes on in factory farms in this current day. And I don't think anyone can really discredit the evidence that adopting a vegan diet can have some positive effect in halting the damage that we're doing to our planet's environment. I think the health question's a bit of a grey area. I mean, what's healthy for me might be absolutely terrible for you. I personally love eating nuts, but for some people, if they eat a nut, their throat is swelling up, their face is ballooning, and there's a good chance they're going to die. We're not all the same. Human biology is so complicated, and so is diet and nutrition, and we often try to simplify things so much to this is good, this is bad, carnivore diet, vegan diet, paleo diet. I find the answers are always somewhere in the middle of the extremes. I think it's very important to say that just because I'm vegan, it doesn't mean in any way that I think I've achieved like peak good. This, for me, leads me to the crux of the issue with this topic. I am, for all intents and purposes, vegan. But veganism isn't ideal. Veganism is more of a journey than it is a destination. I by far prefer the more actionable, I practice veganism, as opposed to the stationary, I am a vegan. I am vegan. We've already had quite recently Sandy Toksvig on QI trying to discredit vegans because they eat avocados, which in some cases are pollinated by bees that are carried to and from farms in trucks. This is a fine question to raise ethically. And if being vegan is a stationary thing, then yes, it is relevant. In reality though, it's just kind of silly. Because what veganism is about is living ethically. And living ethically requires the constant consideration of many things. Am I ever going to live completely without causing any harm to any animal? Probably not. But what I can do is do my best through my decisions and actions to limit this harm as much as possible. And that applies to everything, not just animal and food ethics. Sometimes I worry that I might trip as I'm walking down the street, land on a slug, and Sandy Toksvig will pop up out of a manhole and strip me of my status as a vegan. I saw that! You're not vegan. No disrespect to Sandy Toksvig whatsoever, but you come after my avocados again and you'll be in trouble. The thing is though, veganism isn't the be all and end all. It's part of a much bigger picture. If you're a vegan, but you treat other people like crap, well, I'm sorry to say, but you've got a longer way to go than you realise. Veganism means nothing if it's not complemented with trying to behave ethically in other aspects of our life as well. and you're not automatically a bad person for not being a vegan. That's ridiculous. If someone had a pair of scales to measure, there are probably hundreds of thousands of people that are non-vegans that are better people than me. You can never be completely certain about anything in life. So at some point in the future, some evidence might come out to suggest that veganism is completely terrible for the environment. Cows, pigs and chickens are actually sadomasochists, and vegetables are bad for you. If that happens, then I'm going to reconsider my opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinions and choices in life, and I respect yours, whatever they are. And I hope that you respect mine. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.